Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everybody. This gentleman has dedicated his life to making life better for many. And that starts with the healthcare system around and outside the greater Boston area. He was the man behind Healthcare Value Management, president and co-founder of that. That's just a piece of what he's done in his career for changing the way we look at healthcare. He's also worked with unions on that level. But then he and his wife have changed the face of education by providing more tools for those in the Boston area, and have learned so much. And we're going to dig back in our conversation with him. He's our Centurion recipient as well. Charles L. Donahue Jr. joins us once again on the program. Hi, Charles. How are you doing today?
Good, Steve. Good to talk to you. How have you been?
It's great to have you back here. And by the way, I want to put out there instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. If anybody has a comment or a question about something we're talking about. I don't know why, but Dale Carnegie has been coming up in my circles. People have mentioned that name, talking about some of the training. We skimmed that previously when we've gotten together, but Dale Carnegie made a very large impact on your life. Can we circle back to that for just a moment?
Sure, I'd love to talk about it. Dale Carnegie lived in the Midwest, and he came to New York. He wanted to be an actor, and he ended up working at the YMCA in New York City. And he got together with immigrant groups, and they sat around talking about how they got their last job, what made a difference. And they shared with each other what they had learned. And this Dale Carnegie took all this information that he gathered, and he wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'll give it the name of the book a little bit later again for people to get. Just to show the impact of the book, a fellow named Warren Buffett, who's the richest man in America, he says he doesn't have in his office his college degree. He doesn't have his master's degree that he got in business. He has his Dale Carnegie degree. He says the best education he ever had. This is from the richest man in America. I was involved with a group in Massachusetts that worked with getting money for scholarships for kids who worked at golf courses. There was a member of that committee that was, we call it the Francis We Met Scholarship Fund. He would give a Dale Carnegie course free to all the kids who graduated from that program. And what that basically was, it was worth about $2,400 each. That's what you paid to go to his company. He owned the Dale Carnegie franchise in Massachusetts. And you would go and you would take these classes that would teach you the skills you need to win friends and influence people. And after the kids were through with this course, they couldn't talk enough about it. They thought it was fantastic. I came home and told my son about it, and he was about the same age as these kids. And he drove from Boston to Providence every week to take a Dale Carnegie course, which he paid money for. And he said, Dad, this is the best education I've ever had. He had a master's in business. He got a college degree. But he said, I learned so much about how to respect other people. I believe you will succeed, and you will, is a motto. Learn to love, respect, and enjoy other people is another motto they have. See things from the point of view of others, the art of dealing with people. These are some of the things that come out of this Dale Carnegie thing. So I'll just give you the name of the book again. If people have questions about it, we can get into it in much greater detail. But the name of the book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's been around since it was first published back around 1930. Dale Carnegie started doing his work in New York City in the YMCA in 1912. And it was the accumulated information from all of that work. There's another related book that's been published since then, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. They've set up now a Dale Carnegie program that you can buy these books. And the value of these books is you can sit down and read them yourself. Or if you're a coach of a team, you could get copies of the books and go to the local library. Get a room and sit there and read the books as a group. You could get a soccer team or a basketball team to take the books. You could read the books to the kids. You could have the kids get copies of the books. You could do this in a YMCA, a boys club, a girls club, library. You could do it in a church. But one of the ways you could do this, because very school systems offer this as a way of educating people, but it's a very valuable skill to learn how to do this work. And I'd recommend very highly that if you've got grandkids, tell them about the book. If you've got kids, tell them about the book. Get to read it yourself. Read it together. Read it together and talk about the book. Read it together, and at the end of each chapter of the book is a summary phrase about what you just read. It would be very, very valuable, and I'd suggest that you've got a college education, you have a PhD, you learn more from this book, and how to influence people, how to stop worrying and start living than you would from anything else. So I'd be happy to go into greater detail at some future time if people have questions.
Sure.
Please call in with your questions.
When I hear the name Dale Carnegie, it takes me back to when I was younger and I was working in radio, and one of the salespeople was a big Dale Carnegie fan. And Mike Hayes was his name. I'll never forget him. Had this big booming voice, and he took the training, and I'll never forget, and I'm going to try and remember if I say this correctly, but I'll never forget the premise of a quote from Dale Carnegie. But basically it was, develop success from failures. I think he said discouragement and failure are the two surest stepping stones to success. So basically, learn from your failures, because it's going to catapult you into a successful world. And it's amazing. He was kind of a trailblazer. You know, today we have many, many different inspirational people, life coaches, so many of them. But it started with Dale, and it's amazing how far back that goes, right?
Right. It goes back, to the 1920s. And things haven't really changed as far as what it takes to be successful. Listen to other people. Show respect for other people. Learn the views of other people. A lot of this you learn chapter by chapter. It's not too complicated, but it comes out of hardcore people sharing what they've learned. And when Warren Buffett says it's by far the best education you ever had, all these kids that took it, free, who worked at golf courses, and my son taking the course, driving all the way to Providence to take it. Those are just signs of people who just can't thank anyone who recommended it to them. So it'd be a great way for people who are listening. Buy the book, sit down with your kids, sit down with your grandkids, sit down in a library with a group. You could maybe get a group of people to read the book together, just as a lot of libraries have book clubs. This would be a wonderful book to look at as a club. It would greatly enhance the education of the people taking advantage of it. So I'd strongly recommend that, and any questions people have, would be happy to go into those in more detail.
Love it. What was just share with us again the name of the book?
There's two of them now. One, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can just call up any bookstore would precisely know what it is. The second book that's been published since then is by the Dale Carnegie Group. They are now doing a number of books. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. This is for people, particularly people who have some problems getting ahead.
Sure.
There's another book that has come out that's related to Dale Carnegie Group has published, The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking. It's really a valuable book for people who speak before groups, who want to speak before groups, but The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking is another in the Dale Carnegie series. So they've now begun to publish books over a period of time based on what they've learned in their classes and what the classes have brought before a larger group of people. So I strongly recommend this for anybody at any age, in middle school, high school, college. If you're out selling things, this is extremely valuable for people who sell things. Meet with people and try to get them to buy products. Teaches you how to get along with people, how to respect other people, how to listen to other people. Empathy is very crucial in medicine, in sales, where you listen to other people. What do they think? What do they feel? That's a very important part of Dale Carnegie.
Wow. How to win friends, influence people. When I hear those words, right away I think Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
It's like synonymous.
It's a very valuable tool that a lot of people don't know about or don't take advantage of. It's unfortunately, it's not a part of public education. It would be nice if schools had courses and it would teach this, but if you can get a group together at a YMCA or a boys club or maybe a library or a church, and other places where you can get people together to learn together. I feel there's a lot of value education that's missing that you can, if the public schools don't do it, you can do it in other ways.
It's amazing with today's technology that there's so much information out there and available. And we've talked about this in the past, and it's been a while. And there's always different people listening to our podcast and finding us. The program that you started in libraries with your wife, that is in the Boston area. But can we find that elsewhere? And if we could recap on what that program is.
Sure. One of the things that I started doing probably about 20 years ago, there was a fellow who went to law school in Boston, and he was ill, and he couldn't take one of the courses that he had to get an exam on. So somebody told him about this, a copy of that course that somebody recorded, and you can go listen to the course on a tape, and it might help you prepare for this exam, which he did, and he passed the exam. So he went to Washington, and he decided he was working for the Congress. They were trying to improve education in rural areas and urban areas. So he said, why don't we go around and interview some of the best teachers out there, the best high school teachers, the best college teachers, and we interview them, and we get them to teach their course on a tape, and this would be a DVD. So that fell apart. A lot of people in Congress didn't like it. So he left the Congress as a staff person, and he set up his own company. It's called a teaching company. He went out, and what the idea was, he went to university campuses around the country, and he interviewed students. And he said to the students, who's the best teacher at this university? Who would you recommend for a new student to take a course with somebody? So they came up with a list of what they felt were the best teachers based on what the students thought. Then they went out and they interviewed these people, and they asked if they would come to Washington and teach their course. Most of the courses that were taught when they went to Washington were about 24 hours, half an hour each, and they brought in some of the best teachers in the United States to teach these courses. When I first saw this, I started to buy some of these DVDs, and I sat there and I said, if I had ever known about this company and these courses, I might have been smart by the time I was in college age. So I was very late in getting understanding of all these courses that were available. So what I did with my wife recently was we went in and got the best courses we could get on DVD. We then decided we would donate them to the local library in the town we live in, and then the town I grew up in. So these towns have now DVDs of some of the best college courses. These are courses that are taught at Harvard, at Brown, at NYU, at all of these great universities across the country. The local woman who I know, she told me how she took one of the courses, Classics of American Literature, taught by the most popular professor at Brown University. She took it into her class. It's a girls' school, and the girls were very interested in it. One girl said, where did you get this course? And she said, it's at this local library. So she went that library that summer, and she took the whole course, 24 lectures, half an hour each. And she said, I read some of the books of classics of American literature. It was fascinating. She said, I think I'm going to apply to Brown. Brown is hard to get into, so 4% acceptance rate. So one of the things colleges ask you, and these books could be valuable for students to read and prepare in high school, is you have to write a college essay or you do a college interview. It would be very valuable for you to have said in your college essay or your college interview, I've already taken 3 college courses. And you name the course, you name the professor, you name the school, and you say, I wrote a paper on this subject. So this girl said, I want to apply to Brown University. As I said, it's a 4% acceptance rate. Very rare for this school to get kids admitted. So in her interview, she told them that she had already taken a course at Brown. They said, how could you have done that? So she says a teaching company, and she names the course. And so they interview her. They didn't believe she had taken the course. So the whole interview was, did she do the course? Brown, like many universities, looking for ballsy, pushy people. This girl, she certainly fit that role. She wasn't a quarterback or a football player or a hockey player. What skill would she have? She already aggressively went out and took a course. So, make a long story short, she gets admitted. They think a lot of it had to do with that she already had taken a course at the school. She knew the professor's name. She went to Brown. She took a course with this professor. She said, I've already taken one of your courses. He said, how was that possible? He said, it was a teaching company. So there is this company called the Teaching Company. There are YouTube's descriptions. I don't know if this helps people, but if you wanted to look up the YouTube description of some of the courses, the ones in art, literature, music, and philosophy, I'm going to say this over the phone. I'm not sure it helps people, but if you look up the Teaching Company, you can get that on any source, but this art, literature, music, and philosophy is https:/right to left www.youtube.com/right to left watch WATCH !V $. That's the first part of it. Then it's capital OAFHLD 9KPL. Might be easier to just go to Google the Teaching Company to get information. I'm sure they'll send you a catalog. They have sales if you wanted to buy the DVDs. And there's other ways through libraries where you can get access to various types of programs. But these, my wife and I have donated 140 college courses, 37 just in history, the literature ones, all the books out there that should have been read. People summarize them. There's a guy at Dartmouth who has summarized and does lectures on Shakespeare. There's classics of British literature, European literature, just regular literature. But these are wonderful, wonderful opportunities to go get access to these courses that the Teaching Company has put together, and a lot of people just don't know about it, should know about it. It'd be a wonderful thing to buy a DVD for your grandkids, for your kids, for your team. You could sit there watching one of these courses with the softball team or the basketball team and learn a lot about a subject with everything. I have a daughter who's a lawyer. She said, Dad, this course is equivalent to the early part of law school. I have a son with a master's in business. He said, Dad, this is what you do in business school.
Wow.
So that's the range. high school courses in literature, biology courses, the Duke University course you take when you go to Duke University in biology. That's one of the courses. You can take this before you even go to Duke. Pre-med, you get your biology out of the way. So this would be, again, the great courses. You can look it up on the internet and get access to something that's a wonderful thing to share with grandkids or kids, or even as an adult, get together with your book club, do a course with the book club.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's free. It's the other part. We just got an email a couple of minutes ago. And what we're talking about here, at least with Dale Carnegie, has resonated for Jim in Bangor, Maine. He says, I've learned a lot from Dale Carnegie. And one thing is that we all don't speak the same language, even if it is, and that's in capitals, is the same language. It all comes down to one thing Mr. Carnegie said. And he puts in quotations, show respect for the other person's opinion. Never say you're wrong. And Jim goes on to say that I appreciate your talk today and thank you for the great reminder about Dale Carnegie. Have a great day.
One of the great things of Dale Carnegie is something that took a long while. Doctors are just figuring this out, and that's empathy. Showing respect and understanding other people.
Yep.
What are their views is very, very helpful if you're dealing with immigrants, people from other cultures. What makes sense to them? What would they like to see? But so much of sales and anything is respecting the other person's view. Understand it first, and then show respect for it.
I feel I should share with you because it kind of surprised me. In the last couple of months, I'm on the board of the Girl Scouts in our area, and they wanted everybody on the board to take a strength assessment test. So I took the Clifford strength assessment test. It's 34 strengths that are identified. You answer questions for about a half hour. It's kind of rapid fire. And it came back with my number one strength is communication. Okay, no surprise. That's what I've been doing since I was a kid, literally. Number two strength was empathy. And it surprised me because I'm usually the person that points out to somebody else saying, do you realize that you're an empath? I mean, that's why you think that way. Meanwhile, that was me. And I figured maybe that'd be my top 15th strength. Never realized that empathy for me was number two.
Well, what we've discovered in healthcare in Boston was a fellow named Jim O'Connell has spent 50 years studying the homeless. The homeless people have caused a major problem in every city, New York, California. They clog up emergency rooms. They keep coming back. They don't follow instructions. They clog up intensive care units. A lot of them have tuberculosis, and they can't find them. So this fellow named James O'Connell, a new book has been published about him and his work in Boston called Rough Sleepers. That's the name of Rough Sleepers. It's a detailed book written by a guy named Tracy Kidder, who wrote another important book called Mountains Beyond Mountains. But this book describes who the homeless are. And the first thing Jim O'Connell discovered when he started working with the homeless, he had to go to nurses to understand why they were successful as treating the homeless. One of the things that nurses did that doctors didn't do, doctors told people what to do. Nurses, through empathy, listened to them to understand what they valued. Now, most of the homeless were once normal people. They became mentally ill. They didn't have the money for rent, and nobody wanted to live with them, so they're out living in gutters and alleys. And women, 40% of the homeless in Boston are women. They live together for protection. But once they just didn't have the money for rent, no one would live with them because they were mentally ill, or they were alcoholics or drug addicts. So this guy, Jim O'Connell, this would be another topic for a discussion sometime, he went in and he figured out that you listen to the patients. That's how you help them. You listen to them, what their values are, But empathy was crucial in transferring, and the nurses have taught the doctors, who instead of telling people what to do, they listened to them, and they understood what was important to them. And the homeless became consultants and advisors to him on how to take care of other homeless. So it's a wonderful story in a book called Rough Sleepers. And anybody that deals with the homeless in any hospital setting, it would be a valuable book for them to read. It was published recently by a guy named Tracy Kidder, who won a Pulitzer Prize for another book called Mountains Beyond Mountains that he wrote about people in Haiti. Just empathy is so important, but Dale Carnegie, more than anybody, pointed that out to people.
Love it.
It was valuable.
And, it's funny. Many people will say, I'd rather see the nurse. I'm not taking anything away from doctors, but many will say, I'd rather see the nurse or the physician's assistant. And it's because of just what you said. It's a different approach. They're listening as opposed to telling. Charles, great having you on here once again. Love your insight. Love your passion for sharing things that you've learned and helping people. And congrats on being our Centurion recipient. Glad you're feeling better and looking forward next time we get together.
Stephen, always a pleasure. Love to be on your show. Take care.
Appreciate it. You too. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.